Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to week 3 of our cybersecurity module. I am going to have you guys I'm going to do some talking here, and I want you guys to, well, unfortunately, you get to just watch my washed out face here. I can't get the light working just right here to not flush my face out, so. Welcome to my little office. Right over here is my I Love Me wall from when I was in the Navy. This is actually our third bedroom that isn't used for anything except my office. So that's why you see the bed in the background. Alright, so enough about that crap. So I wanted to go a little bit different this week and talk to you about some different breaches, data breaches that have happened over the last few years, and show how they happen and what organizations did or didn't do that caused the problem. So I'm going to start out with some of the biggies, and the biggest one to date is Yahoo.com got hit in 2013 for 3 billion records. 3 billion records. And it turned out it was a spear phishing email attack. So basically they were sending very well-crafted emails to specific people in Yahoo, in the Yahoo group, Yahoo system, and they got them to click some links, get some software put into the back door or into the system that allowed the hackers in. Once they were in, the first thing they did was put in a back door, so in case they got found, they'd have another way in. And they traipsed around and started scraping data from Yahoo for months and ended up with 3 billion records. The next big one was AAHDAR. It's in India, and it's a system that was set up by the Indian government to store data on everybody, all of India's population. So there was 1.1 billion citizens' identity, biometric information exposed. Now, the way they got this one is the programmers left an API, application programming interface, open in the background that was open on the internet that had the capability of doing things it shouldn't. And so the hackers figured out that by using this API, they could basically dump all of the data. Now, it wasn't open directly to everybody on the internet, but it was open to specific groups. So they had a third-party company that was tied into this through the API. That third-party company was a state-owned utility company, and the hackers were able to get into that company. I haven't heard how yet, but from there, they found the API and moved it on, and 1.1 billion records, basically everybody in India. Sticking out in the Far East there, Alibaba, which is the Amazon of China, in 2019 they had 1.1 billion records stolen. And what it was a developer working for an affiliate company of Alibaba had access to the data, and doing a, it was kind of a, they automated the method, but it's a rudimentary method. Basically scraped the data. By scraping the data, I mean they had the data come up on the screen, and they did a screen scrape, basically took a picture of the screen and grabbed all the data out of it. A lot of places or a lot of people will do that. It's easy to do. They grabbed 1.1 billion records over 8 months. LinkedIn, in 2021, just a couple years ago, 700 million users had their data stolen. This one was a data scraping issue as well, and it was technically not a breach because it was a user out there, and they basically automated a system that allowed them to pull up all of the records of people in LinkedIn, put it on the screen, and do a screen scrape. So they technically didn't call it a breach, but it went against their terms of service and the privacy policy. Big one in China again, Sina Weibo, which was Chinese's largest social media platform, in 2020 lost 538 million accounts. We've had no official word on the method of attack, but the data was sold on the dark web for $250. Must have been an easy $250, I guess. 2019, Facebook got hit for 533 million users. They inadvertently exposed records to the internet, which the hackers found very quickly and grabbed data. Marriott International, they bought Starwood, which was another brand of hotels. And in 2018, Starwood had 500 million customer records purchased. And when they went back, when Marriott went back and did the forensic analysis of this, they found that the group that had access to this, it was a Chinese intelligence group, and they had actually been in Starwood's network since 2014. They were found in 2018. That was one of the big reasons Marriott got rid of the Starwood brand. That was actually a catalyst for them to get rid of the Starwood brand. In 2014, just the year after Yahoo.com got hit for 3 billion records, guess what? They got nailed for another 500 million accounts. The funny thing was, well, not so funny thing, they didn't go public with this breach until 2016, and they still haven't talked about how the data was breached. This one is kind of an interesting one. Adult Friend Finder. It's a adult network that I guess people can go on and find hookups and so on. In 2016, they got hacked for 412.2 million accounts, and so not that that's bad. The names on the list, I guess, were quite interesting. But the bad thing about this one was the idiots at Adult Friend Finder hashed their passwords. When you typed in your password, they hashed it with SHA-1. SHA-1 hash is one of the most easily cracked hashes available. And so cybersecurity experts figure 99% of those 412 million accounts, 99% of their passwords were cracked within a few months of the breach happening. And those passwords were actually matched up with user IDs in LinkedIn and sold on the dark web. MySpace, which went downhill in a heartbeat. It was taking the world by storm, and then Facebook came in and just strangled it. But Yahoo got hit in 2014 for 500 million records, 500 million records. Oh no, excuse me, I was looking at the wrong line. MySpace got hit in 2013 for 360 million users, and all of those accounts were put up for sale on the dark web. No report on whether they had any buyers or anything. In 2015, a company called NetEase, which provides network access and network for multiple companies, had 235 million accounts hit. But while they think it was Chinese in origin, NetEase has not confirmed the breach. So it's flagged as unverified right now, but it sounds like it's probably happened. Experian, one of the big credit reporting agencies, they have a subsidiary called Court Ventures. And Court Ventures was hit in 2013 for 200 million personal records. Now this one was using social engineering, and it was actually a really, really good one. Court Ventures had a subsidiary, or had an office in the Orient, and a Vietnamese man tricked someone in the company into giving him access to the database by posing as a private investigator from Singapore. So this guy socially engineered his way in to getting access to the database by posing as a private investigator. My guess, the person that let him in probably isn't working there anymore. LinkedIn had also got hit. Not only did they get hit in 2021 for 700 million users, but in 2012 they got hit for 165 million users. And it was by the same people who hacked MySpace. And so they put the data all together and they sold it on the dark web. I got notified of that one back in 2012. Company called Dubsmash in 2018 got hit with 162 million users. There's no confirmation of how they got breached. They're not talking about it. 2013, Target, of course, got hit for 70 million records. And if you haven't heard, the way they got hit was through a third-party HVAC, the air conditioner, heating, ventilation, air conditioning company out of New Jersey that they use to manage all of the HVAC systems for their stores nationwide, had access into the Target network. That's not so bad. You've got to be able to get into the network to be able to see all of these devices and stuff. Understandable. But two things happened here. One was, three things. One was the network in Target was built rather shoddily. They didn't segregate things out very well, and it allowed the hackers to, normally you segregate out your point of sale systems, and especially anything that's running credit card data through it. You segment that off so it's on its own little island out there in the network, and nobody can get to it. They didn't have that split off and secured. That's one. Two, they gave access to this third-party vendor. They gave them too much access into the network instead of limiting them to be able to get to just the HVAC systems. They were granted more wide open access. Problem number two. Problem number three was the company did not have policies in place to, the third-party company didn't have policies in place to let their employees know that, hey, you shouldn't plug in USB devices from outside. And that's how they got in, through a USB device in this third party. So that's how Target got hit. The other big U was 2017 Equifax. Again, one of the big three, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, are the three big credit reporting agencies. Equifax was hit for 147.9 million records. This one is a lesson in proper vulnerability management. In December of 2016, there was a patch that was put out by the Apache software group for a product called Struts version 2. And it was a product that is used by, Struts is used by literally God and everybody in the world. Very well known. But it had a glaring hole in it that the developers found, and they quietly put out this patch, but didn't really tell anybody about it. In February and March, it went public, and companies scrambled. My company did as well. Scrambled to make sure that they got this patch in place and make sure that we were safe. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. So, I was talking about Equifax and the breach. So they didn't follow. So the patch was released. Companies ran to get this thing patched. I remember in 2017 when this happened in our company, it was all hands on deck, and we got everything patched within hours of it being released. So that worked out good for us. For some reason, Equifax didn't patch their Struts 2 systems. And in April of 2017, the bad guys found it. And so they got into, through Struts, they got into Equifax's network. And once in there, of course, they put in backdoors and trapdoors and so on, so they could get back in even if the Struts was closed. They traipsed around in Equifax's network and grabbed data for 4 months. April, May, June, and into July. In July, Equifax found the breach, patched Struts 2, and said, "Oops-a-daisy." Something as easy as putting a patch in place for a piece of software is all it would have taken to make it so that breach wouldn't have happened. And that's why companies struggle and try and make sure that they're patching their systems on a regular cadence to make sure that they close these holes. So those are some really big attacks that have happened. Now the other type of hacks and attacks that come in have been the ransomware attacks. And these have been monetarily good for the bad guys. They've been able to monetize their hacks and get paid for it. So these are all in 2021. There are 10 of them, or 11 of them. 10 of them that I'm going to talk about here real quick. And every year there seems to be more and more of these. And in a lot of cases, they get paid off. So the first one I'm going to talk about, Colonial Pipeline. They distribute gas and auto fuel supplies and so on all along the East Coast. And you may have remembered this one from a couple of years ago. It caused a panic amongst the people who live on the East Coast. And people were hoarding gas and waiting in line in long lines at gas stations. The gas stations couldn't get gas, and they caused a lot of chaos. Colonial paid them off $4.4 million in Bitcoin to restore their systems. Now, this is where it's kind of funky, because the hackers are bad. They do bad things. They encrypt systems so people can't get into their data. But they're somewhat ethical in that if you pay them off, almost every time that they get paid, the hackers get paid off, I would say it'd be better than 90% of the time, they give the codes and allow the data to be unencrypted. So that happened with Colonial Pipeline. Well, the FBI and law enforcement, of course, since this was an attack against one of our key infrastructure companies, the FBI and law enforcement went after these people. And they were able to intercept and recover most of the $4.4 billion. But they're still looking for the hackers. Another company, a chemical distribution company called Brenntag, they got hit with ransomware. Now, most of the times they get hit with ransomware, it is somebody clicking a link in an email that they shouldn't be clicking. And once that happens, the malware gets onto a machine, and then it propagates across the network, and you have chaos. Brenntag paid $4.4 million to get their data back. They didn't talk about anything beyond that they paid the $4.4 million. Acer, which is a computer manufacturer, and I didn't realize Acer was still around. They were around back in the 80s when the PC revolution was just starting. They got a Microsoft Exchange Server exploit was taken advantage of. So there was a flaw in Microsoft Exchange Server. I know it's hard to believe Microsoft, but there was a flaw in Microsoft Exchange Server that allowed the hackers to do what's called an RCE, or remote code execution. They were able to execute their own code in there, which put the malware in place, which encrypted all the systems. And Acer ended up paying off the bad guys. JBS Foods, meat processor, this was a big one in the news. Their systems got hacked, and they've got meat packaging plants all over the Midwest, basically. And their systems got encrypted, and they basically couldn't do anything. And there was a real thought that there was going to be meat shortages across the United States. So again, panic sets in, and people start hoarding it. It's like, oh my God, come on, guys, chill. JBS paid $11 million to get their data unlocked. Quanta, a computer manufacturer, probably haven't heard of. I hadn't heard of it, but it's one of Apple's biggest business partners, got attacked with ransomware. They refused to pay off. So the bad guys left Quanta all locked up and went and hit Apple at the same time, since they're business partners. Apple didn't pay off. And so after a bunch of time, both Quanta and Apple were able to restore their systems to get rid of the ransomware, and the hack stopped, but they didn't pay off. Another one hit. This one I didn't know got hit. In the NBA, they got hit. The Houston Rockets got hit, and about 500 gigabytes of private data, which included contracts, negotiation notes, just all sorts of private information was stolen from the Houston Rockets. Not a lot's been published about this yet, even though it was a couple of years ago. And as far as I could find, no ransom had been posted yet. So a European insurance company called AXA, AXA, got hit. And the bad guys got 3 terabytes of data that they downloaded from AXA's systems. From what I've read and what I've been able to deduce, no ransom has been paid, but they were able to restore their systems, it sounded like. CNA Insurance here in the United States had 15,000 devices encrypted because of ransomware. Again, they didn't pay for it, but they were able to re-image all of those devices. A video game developer in Poland called CD Projekt, Projekt, had multiple devices and a lot of their source code stolen. And they didn't pay any ransom. They restored everything from backup, but that the source code appeared on the dark web. And I'm not sure if it got sold or if it was just out there for people to read. And then the last one I'm going to talk about for ransomware was a company called Kaseya. So Kaseya is it manages IT infrastructure for major companies worldwide. So basically, they have access to lots and lots of companies. The company that hit Acer, Quanta, and JBS Foods, a group called Revil, R-E-V-I-L, or Revil, they were the ones that hit Kaseya. Similar to the attacks at Colonial Pipeline and JBS Foods, they had the potential to disrupt key areas of the economy on a large scale. So this one was kind of interesting. So to carry out the attack, they sent out a fake software update through Kaseya's virtual system administrator, which infiltrated both Kaseya's direct clients as well as their customers. So what happened was they had this piece of software that they put into their patching cycle that they were able to get into their virtual system administrator. And their virtual system administrator put that fake patch out to all of their customers. 1 million systems were encrypted and held for ransom, according to Revil. According to Kaseya, around 50 of their clients and around 1,000 businesses in total were impacted. Hackers demanded $70 million in Bitcoin. Just to show the impact of this cyber attack, Coop, or Co-op, C-O-O-P, is a Swedish supermarket chain. They were forced to close 800 stores for a full week because of this hack. So soon after the attack, the FBI gained access to Revil's servers and obtained the encryption keys to resolve the hack. So nothing was paid out to the bad guys. Kaseya was able to restore the IT infrastructure of its clients, and hopefully they put better safeguards in place. It used to be when hackers would hit systems, it would be to deface a website or just gather data or stuff like that. Now it's gotten into monetizing, and it's gotten real expensive. Last thing I want to touch on is one of the biggest hit, or one of the worst hit sectors, has been the healthcare industry. hospitals all over the place have been hit with ransomware, and it has affected care for their patients. So not only now are these hackers potentially disrupting our infrastructure, our food distribution, and so on. Now they're could be causing life and death issues with healthcare. So, for example, One Touch Point Incorporated, it's a Wisconsin-based company, had a breach. 4.1 million individuals. It happened, and they didn't put in any information on whatever happened with it. Advocate Aurora Health is a health system that operates hospitals in Illinois and Wisconsin, and suffered a breach involving 3 million patients. They had their websites disabled, their systems were disabled, and they ended up having to change everybody's passwords. They had to get back in, but they couldn't get in to get patient data for a while. Shields Healthcare Group, a Massachusetts-based company, and they again had they were breached, and names, social security numbers, dates of birth, addresses, all sorts of information were stolen. Baptist Medical Center and Resolute Health Hospital in Texas, 2 hospitals. They affected 1.6 million people. They got access to the systems. They got all of the data, date of birth, social security, health insurance record, and stuff. And they also locked up the systems for a while to where doctors and nurses couldn't get patient care data. It's scary. There's 4 or 5 other ones that are listed here that happened over the last 2 years. It's very scary, the hits that are taking right now. That, like I say, not only are they affecting our critical infrastructure, but they're also affecting food distribution and now healthcare. And we've seen how easy it could be for them to get into the electrical grid and affect that. Our electrical grid is hanging on by a thread anyway, so that could be bad. There's any number of things that could happen here. And now with AI coming into the forefront, that could potentially give the bad guys more computing power and more capability of doing things that are detrimental to the masses, the people at large. So anyway, just wanted to go through those a little bit today, and next week I'm going to get a little bit into the technical aspects of breaches and how we'll talk about Kali Linux and some of the offensive software systems, and we'll talk about penetration testing and stuff like that. So we'll get into more of those things. If you have any questions or anything, you know where to reach me. Otherwise, have a great week, and I will talk to you soon.